Have you been wondering if now is the right time to change careers? If you have been asking yourself that question, you are not alone. I created a new 10-question quiz that will give you the clarity you need. Download the quiz at secondactsuccess.co/quiz. You will get results quick. Plus, you'll get action items for you to implement right away. I am also including private podcast links to give you even more information on how you can move forward to pursue your second act career. You can grab it now at secondactsuccess.co/quiz. Good luck. Hey, you, are you feeling stuck, desperate for a career change, or thinking of starting a business, but you're just not sure how to make your first move? I'm television producer turned career coach Shannon Russell, and this is the Second Act Success Career Podcast. This is where you will not only get the career advice you've been craving, but you'll get tips from career and business experts, along with inspiration from others who have made a career transition to find second act success. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the show. Today, I am bringing on two amazing women. I met Kelly and Jessica at a recent podcasting conference. They are not only incredibly accomplished women, they are sisters. And together, they decided to create a podcast called Chasing Brighter. Kelly and Jessica are passionate advocates for women's empowerment through storytelling and personal growth. These two sisters live miles apart, yet they come together to create this podcast in the hopes of helping others. We are going to dive into their own personal career stories. Both Kelly and Jessica worked in the corporate world and then pivoted to open their own businesses. We're going to talk about that and why they chose to come together now to create a podcast. Here they are, my friends, Kelly and Jessica from the Chasing Brighter podcast. Kelly and Jessica, welcome to Second Act Success. I'm so excited to have you here.
We are very
Thank
happy
you.
to be here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we all met, just to let the listeners know, the three of us met at PodFest in Orlando this year and just really hit it off. We got to know each other, and I guested on your podcast, which was so much fun. And I really couldn't wait to introduce everyone in the Second Act Success world to you two, because not only do you have a podcast together, but you're sisters and you're just both amazing, amazing women. So let's just start. Jess, why don't you start with telling me where you began your career?
Well, I change my major all the time. I'm very impressionable. So I would get a professor like, "Oh, I want to do that," right? So I started college with the intent to be a physician because that's what smart people do. And I ended up becoming an American Studies major because my roommate said that would be fun. And I fell into volunteering with the homeless and spent a summer in San Diego, and that changed everything for me. And I started studying kind of sociology to finish out that degree and went to go work with the homeless. And I was a children's advocate and very passionate about the feminization of poverty. And for my husband's career, he went to medical school in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia has a very high concentration, as I'm sure you're aware, of colleges. And so to move on my career and do something more, I really had to get a graduate degree. So I went to go to school to get my MSW, my master's in social work. And I really thought I was going to do macro practice and study nonprofit administration, but I ended up working as a therapist in the Puerto Rican community in North Philadelphia and loved therapy, and then just kind of continued working with adolescents and children. We moved to San Diego again for my husband's career, Sacramento, husband's career. Now I'm in Vegas, and I really had, unfortunately, some negative experiences. A lot of the children I was seeing were from divorced families. So I would kind of get in the crosshairs of the divorced parents who were fighting. And so I was kind of done with it and decided to buckled down on some training and went to become a cognitive behavioral therapist specializing in anxiety disorders, which includes OCD, PTSD, panic disorders, and trauma. I was staying home with my kids for 5 years and started just kind of doing 1099 therapy stuff in someone's office. And I had a friend who was like, "I'm going to start my own practice. I'm going to get an office. Come with me." And she kind of dragged me. I wasn't ready, but so proud of myself. Like, I completed my all the paperwork by myself. I became a limited liability company, filled out everything myself, and started my own practice. And so it's going to be 7 years, 7 years of my
Wow.
own practice in the
Amazing.
Henderson area, and so that's what I've been doing.
That's amazing work. And just having met you like that first time, I was like, she is an amazing therapist. Like you can just tell just the way your
Thank you.
soft sound of your voice and just how you talk to people. What an incredible journey to find yourself there.
Yeah,
Well, I love that, Jess. You've really gone through different ways of figuring out what it is that is your true passion and you found it. So that's
yeah,
really exciting.
yeah.
Kelly, how about you? Tell us about your career and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. So I think when I went off to college, I either wanted to save the environment or be an ad executive. Those were like my two. I think I was influenced by all the environmental movement that was happening. And then also, I realized I think it was Rose from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. I mean,
My
she was like
favorite.
this
I love
executive. She had amazing outfits and she was just in this power position. I was like, I want to do that. So when I went off to college, I initially started in engineering and I hated it. I was very unhappy and not so successful. And so I quickly pivoted to marketing and I loved it. And I wanted to move to Chicago after I graduated, but I couldn't afford it on my own. And so I just kind of stayed local and I ended up getting a corporate gig. And I think, when you're young and you don't have a lot of responsibilities, I said yes to a lot of things. And so I moved up and got a lot of great experiences at a young age. And that continued to kind of help propel me, not only corporate America, but also doing consulting, which I absolutely loved consulting. And I kind of bounced back and forth between the two for a few years. Then you start a family and you get busy. And I found that the more challenging the work was, which I found to be very rewarding, the less flexibility I had. And there was a moment where I missed my oldest son's hockey game on a Friday night at 7 o'clock because there was some sort of a C suite executive that needed a report. And my boss at the time and everybody I was with were like unhappy about it, but they're willing to be okay with it. And nobody was really going to bat to be like, no, like, plan ahead. This is a last minute thing is inappropriate and happened multiple times. And that's when I knew I had to kind of make a change. And,
it.
I really enjoy always the jobs I had, the people I worked with, but I knew I had to do something for myself. And so I started looking for another opportunity and ended up similar to Jess in some way, where I ended up finding an opportunity where it was a contracting gig. And I literally overnight created my own LLC and became an independent business owner. And I've been doing that ever since, and I'm about, I think, 6 to 7 years in as well. And it's hard, but it's definitely been rewarding of having the flexibility. And it's not only the flexibility to in terms of your schedule, but also the kind of work I do. I just kind of took a general consulting role and I'm able to take on all kinds of different projects, which is what I like. I like the project work. I like more of a broader experience or challenges than just something that when you're in a specific job, you don't really have that flexibility. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're wearing more hats too, right? If you were at
Yes.
your corporate job, you were focused on X, Y, and Z, and now you can do what you want to and really
Yes.
expand.
And I remember
Yes.
Kelly and I talking pretty young, like, we wanted to be CEOs. And then we had children. I remember her and I were talking, I don't know if you remember this, Kelly, and we were like, "We'll just be happy with middle management." Like, we were like, "Oh, never mind." Like, that's not the kind of parent that we wanna be. And then as things go on, I think because Kelly and I are both problem solvers, I'm always looking for solutions, it was like, "Okay, we need to work for ourselves at this point." And that way we can run our schedules and we can pick and choose our client base.
Kind of resetting our own expectations,
Yeah,
about what it is that we want and being okay with it, not
yeah,
feeling that we're like compromising, right? Or settling
totally.
for something less has been, I think, part of the journey for us.
I agree. And the CEO is what we see in movies and on
Yes.
television, and
Yeah,
no one tells you how you can juggle that with kids and people can, but it's up to you and what kind of a parent you want to be and how you want to run your household and what you want your days to look like. And do you want to be called at 7 p.m. on a Friday after hours to work on
Right.
a report, you know? And
yeah,
I think the three of us being business owners, we are able to say, nope, I'm shutting the computer at 3 p.m., 2 p.m. if we want to, and that's going to be work for the day. We're able to
yeah.
control that. And there's something so powerful in that I think is even more powerful than being a CEO at a big
Yes.
corporation.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
absolutely.
There was just this trend going around on TikTok that I noticed that was, just give me the chill job. I don't know if you've seen this, but it was just about
Mm-mm.
people at this point, you're trying to climb the ladder, but now you just want a chill job. Get me a job at a fast food restaurant that pays me, and then I can just go home and turn off my brain at night. And I
Mhm.
was like, wow, like there is something to that, that if you just really don't want to think about things, you just want to earn a paycheck, a chill job might just be right for you. But I thought it was a really funny trend
Yeah,
that was going around.
I joke about that. I still think I wanna be a barista. It's gonna be like my 4th act
Yeah.
success, I think, Shannon. But I think the other part is that all sounds fine and dandy, but I don't know about you guys, but I get bored so fast. And I think some of those types of roles I would struggle with. And so part of that, I think maybe as you get older, right, is just kind of understanding yourself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how you really are wired.
That's
Yeah.
how I was, like, here okay, if I were a barista 2 weeks in, I would be like, "You guys, we need to totally reorganize the
Yeah.
countertop," right? I would immediately go to, like, trying to change every single thing in there. Like Kelly, you say when you know your role or what you end up doing, like, early on, I ended up becoming the president of the PTO, and I was like, "What the hell happened here?" Like, that was not what I wanted to be doing, but, sometimes we just kind of I'm a bossy lady.
Yeah. Me too. Like type A all the
Yeah,
way.
I couldn't just do the freaking job.
Right.
No. No, and that's what's really fun about being business owners is
Yeah,
being able to like, "Oh, do I want to do this? Do I wanna add this on?" You can try different things, and I guess that brings me to really talking about the podcast, because nothing is more
yeah,
creative than a podcast and making that what you want. And so, just so our listeners know, you 2 are sisters, but you don't
Yes.
live near each other. We've got Las Vegas
no.
and Chicago here. So,
Mhm.
you're obviously very close, I can tell. Tell me about the idea of the podcast and who came up with it and how it kind of came to be.
Well, I think that we were both looking for a passion project at the
Yes.
time. I
Yes.
was working with a colleague 2019 to kind of create a course, and she wasn't really kind of getting back to me a little bit, and I just work at a different pace, and I was like, "Wait a minute, do I want to get into business with someone who that's how it's going to be?" And I had gone to therapy, was going through some changes in my marriage and like reading all of these great books. And Kelly, you can speak on your journey a little bit, but I was like, okay, as a therapist, particularly with trauma, I can only see so many people a day. I did at a time where I was seeing 7, 8 clients a day, but I no longer do that. And my max is 5. I wanted to have another stream of income, but I didn't want it to be therapy based. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to create something and do something. And then Kelly was at a similar point in her life. If you want to share where you were, Kel.
Yeah, Jesse and I, we are sisters and we are the only 2 siblings. We're like 18 months apart. And we always say, I feel like we were treated like twins growing up. There's a lot of things that are happen at similar times for us in our lives, which is like kind of creepy and strange. But one of them was we both were going through our own kind of like personal crisis. When we started to kind of come out of that, I had even been burnout with my own work because I had a particular client that was just like eating my soul. We were trying to find something to do. We always had talked about maybe going into business together or something, even though we live apart. But we kind of started to think about what that looked like. The idea of chasing brighter really started to resonate with us because we do have a lot of friends who were in similar kind of positions or were in different stages of that. And we had a lot to share that we found our friends found to be kind of it resonated with them. And so it's kind of snowballed and we are having an absolute blast with the podcast.
We're resources a lot for our friends. Like a lot of our friends will come to us, well, how did you do that? Where did you get that? What book did you read? We love fashion. We love shopping. We love traveling. And they're like, how'd you know about this? And so it's like, I was, when I was doing courses for myself and going down the rabbit hole of creating a course, they say if you find yourself repeating the same thing over and over, record it and sell it. I don't know if you've heard that, Shannon.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, well, we need to figure out how to like package this because I think we can help more people. We can help people and guide them right? We can be a resource for them, sharing our journey, interviewing others who are sharing their own journey, and
Yes.
trying
Yeah.
to inspire our listeners to go on their own journey to joy.
I love that. And in your bio, it says that it's not just a podcast, it's a movement. And that's how
Yes.
you explained it, right? You just want to bring the ideas of really making yourself have a brighter life, right? Finding your
Yeah.
passion, finding your joy, and living a more well rounded life, would you say?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we're talking about more recently is like just a mindset and having an abundance mindset. And, I think sometimes as a woman in the world and a business person where you're out there and you're like, everybody has the same view as me, they're already doing these things. Why should I do that too? We were talking about abundance mindset where it's like, so what? Like, everybody has everything to share. We want to inspire others and we are inspired by others at the same time. We've had some really great success stories with listeners
Mhm.
who listen to an episode. We had a couple episodes on mindful drinking and just thinking about how you drink and why you do that, and how that changed behavior for listeners, or how some of our listeners we inspire to take up new sports or make changes in their own health and wellness journey, just because I think for us we're not perfect and we're not telling everybody exactly how to do it. It's really about like think about what that means for them, right? Because everyone's journey is very personal.
And
Yeah.
we do a monthly book club. And just the other day, my friends were texting me. We had Jessica Median on, and she has First Moon Manual. And it's a book of poems and letters for girls who start their first menstrual cycle. And my friend was texting my best friends, and she was like, I was like, I'm going to skip over this because this is just going to be crap, the episode. And she goes, oh my gosh, I listened to it. I ordered the book for my daughter. And it was a loop with another friend. And my other friend was like, oh my gosh, I already listened to it, and I've been totally changing the conversation around periods with my 2 girls, and just hearing how that simple thing, how we inspired them, then change the way they're parenting and talking about our bodies with their daughters. I just think that's so fun. We can get that feedback from our listeners.
That is an incredible example of what you share with your audience. And you have guests on, and then you also talk with each other, and you have really amazing conversations that people like me can relate to as well, and our listeners. And so, when you're coming up with concepts, are you thinking of things in your real life that you're like, oh, that would make for a great episode? Or is it stuff from your friends or your kids? Where do you come up with the topics that you're going to have for the show?
I think it varies. I'm a very structured person. So Jess and I are different people, which I think is what works as well. It really complements each other. Maybe drives each other crazy sometimes too. Maybe drives me crazy more than you. I don't
So
know,
it would be so
Jess.
Shannon, if you were like, "Hey, right now," you're like, "Guys, let's just do an episode real quick on potting plants." I'd be like, "Okay, let's go. Okay, I'm just gonna let's just
Yeah,
go off." And
Jesse
Kelly
would
would be like,
go,
"Whoa, no,
hold
we need to
on.
have like an
Yeah, yeah,
outline. I need to research what kind of plants,
yeah.
what region of the plants are we
Mhm.
doing?"
Yes. Yes.
So Kelly
So
has to reel you in, Jess, and all of your
Yeah,
ideas, right?
I'm a dreamer, guys. I'm a dreamer. So
yeah,
shoot.
I'm always like, she'll send an outline of something, and I'm like, this has no structure. There's not like a logic to follow here. And she's like, what? Who
It's
cares? Like,
about
well,
how we feel.
yeah.
It's how we're
So
feeling.
we're learning more about each other too, which is fun. But we have a content calendar and really try to think about things in a monthly format for a lot of our shows. We evolved from having a lot of guests to really doing more research ourselves, which we enjoy. And that's really where we've leaned in a lot too. And then we have our free form conversation each week too, where we just kind of talk about our lives. And that's been fun because what we've also found is we love hearing about other people's lives as well. And so just kind of sharing what we're going through, things that we're learning. Maybe it's pop culture, maybe it's something that happened on spring break, whatever those things are, we're just talking about them. And that's been fun because a lot of those conversations we end up talking to followers and they hear that and it, like you were saying, it really resonates with them as well. So we kind of have two formats right now in our podcast and it seems to be working.
So Kelly and I are the ideal audience, right? And so it is a lot about what we're experiencing, what we're going through as women, as business owners, as parents, what's kind of happening in the tone of where we're living and what's going on, and kind of like what were tips and tools we might have needed early in our journey. We talk a lot about a journey of self-discovery, and now we're talking about refreshing that journey, right? So let's say you're like us and you've been on this journey to your authentic self, you feel like you're living fully, and you're 5 years in. And how do we keep that going? How do we keep inspiring ourselves and finding more tools and resources to keep that going?
It's constant, right? We're constantly
Yes.
changing, and as we get older, our likes will change, and so you're constantly, which is great for you because you have new content to come up with all the
Yeah.
time,
Yes. And
and you can
Shannon,
really.
have you read The Middle Finger Project? Because I think you would really like it. She is so fun, and I just think she would align with your values. Her name is Ash Amberjay,
Okay.
and she just wrote a lot about you go into the workforce and you think it's supposed to be this one way, and then you're not gratified and you're really unhappy and you're in this grind and you're like, this is it. And like Kelly, says the famous quote, there is no there. And it's like you get there and there's no there. And also, she speaks particularly to women and being a woman in the workforce and how she kind of just gave that the middle finger and went out on her own. And that book is incredibly inspiring of just like, wait, we ourselves, Jessica is a business and Jessica has a lot that she can contribute to the world. And Kelly has a lot she can contribute. And Shannon, we each have so much we can contribute that we can make a business based on ourselves because we are all unique with talents and skills.
Yes.
And so that was really inspiring. And I thought of you. I think you and your listeners would like that.
Yes, I'm gonna get it, and you're picking such great books too because you told me about the Shonda Rhimes,
Oh,
Yes.
that
that you
was
did.
awesome.
Yeah, so those are both
Yeah.
will be on my list. And
Yeah.
just to talk about that, last night I went and gave a speech at my college alumni networking event, and it was younger alumni, so professional working men and women in New York City, ages probably about 25 to 30 or so. And they are so scared. After I was talking about career navigation and, thinking about your next step, I was having these one-on-one conversations where they were like, there's layoffs happening left and right in these big corporations in the city, especially in finance. And what do I do? How do I take this experience? I've only been working for 5 years. How can I turn this into something? I'm afraid I'm constantly going to be jumping from job to job. And a lot of them are talking about the business aspect of things and creating a
Yeah.
business around their experience
Mhm.
and, asking me my opinion. Is it scary? And I'm like, yeah, it's scary to run a business. And there's no guarantees with business, but there's also no guarantees staying in the corporate world
That's
because
right.
it's not the way our parents went through
Mm-mm.
working.
Yeah.
But it was eye-opening to me because I was there, the only one with 2 children, and I was explaining my story, and they were relating to me so much, saying, like, "We want to be you in a few years," of knowing that you can
Yeah.
have kids and you can have that stability and creating something else.
I
And so
love
it's
that.
kind of, yeah, and it was refreshing to me to have those conversations and see that, younger people are kind of starting to think about what the 3 of us just
Yes.
discovered in the past few years or
Right. I love it. That's my goal too, is that people get on that journey way before your 40s. Hey, if you can get that going in your 20s, yay for you, right?
so.
I love that. And I think too, like we were trained like mom and pop shops were closing left and right when we were growing up. And so it was like, don't do small business, don't do a small
Yeah.
business.
Mhm.
That's before the internet, guys. That's before the global economy. Now we can sit right here and on our computer and create and connect everybody with no overhead, right? And
Yep.
so it is a very, very different world too.
And there's no reason that everyone can't be a part of it, you know?
And that's that abundance mindset, right?
Yes.
Yep.
You can be
Yes.
successful, I can be successful. There's enough for everybody.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We're very
It's a
lucky.
different kind of stress. Like,
It
my
is.
husband still works for the man and we talk about it, right? Like, yes, there is some comfort in his role and what he has, but like none of it's his. And when
Mhm.
it's all yours, it's very different. And it's like, I'll take that trust because it's mine and I get to make all the decisions, which is fun.
And you're really giving that spark to your listeners every episode on your podcast. So you're giving new ideas and a fresh way to look at it, and you're opening up that conversation. And I think my listeners are right there with us, trying to figure it out, figure out the next step, and that transitions can be not opening a business or changing jobs, but, starting a podcast, writing a
Yeah.
book, whatever it is, taking up painting full time, whatever you want to do at this stage of your life. Have you had friends ask you about starting a podcast. Like, what would you say to someone who's thinking about that as their second act?
We have, I think more and more, it's funny where a lot of people want to do it and it's not that hard. There's a lot of resources out there and it just depends on your personality type in some way. But I think about it as like technically, I want to do it. How am I going to do it? I got to record something. I got to, distribute it. But there's so many tools out there. And I think the one thing that Jess and I have learned at a very young age is to be resourceful and to figure out how to get things done. Things weren't always easy for us to get what we wanted. And so I think that really helped us kind of get this podcast off the ground. And I don't know about you, but it's like there's so many podcasts I listen to now. I love all of them in their own way. I think that's the fun part about podcasting is just really learning from other people all the time. My advice is to just do it.
Yeah,
I
just
mean,
record.
you don't
Record
there's no
yourself. You can do it
recipe.
free. You can put it on
Yes.
YouTube. Record it. I remember that was my push for Kelly, right?
Yeah, I'm
Just
like
to
waiting
yeah.
for all the
I
things to
was like,
perfectly
we're launching,
align.
we're doing it, we're launching it, and this is happening. I watched a YouTuber and he was saying, oh my gosh, I went and deleted my early content because it's so embarrassing. And he's like huge with millions of followers. And he was like, but you've got to start. He was just like, I'm glad I started. You just start, you record, you put it out there, and you get better. And
Mhm.
so that's what I would recommend for people. I know we've inspired a few other people to start a podcast, which I love.
Yes.
I had felt like I wanted to jump in, and then I felt like when we jumped in, it's too late. Like we jumped in too late. Now everyone has a podcast, but it's not too late, right? It's not. If you have something to say, like record it and put it out there. I think the key, I would say to someone new is consistency. So decide when you're going to drop and keep it consistent. Even if it's only once a week, once a month, that's fine. But consistency is the key there.
The other thing I would add is podcasts have been around for a long time. And maybe you don't stay committed to it, but it's not a silver bullet. You're not going to be like a smart list podcast overnight. And you get out what you put in, as with everything
Yeah.
else,
It's a
you
slow
know?
build.
Yeah.
I was actually talking with one of my best friends today who asked me about if she should start a podcast. And I thought it was interesting because the first thing I said to her is, you're not going to make money right away. Like,
Yeah.
podcasting is more of a passion, it's something creative that you want to do, and the money will follow down the road.
Hmm.
But you're not going to leave your 9 to 5 job and think you're going to make a salary with
Right.
podcasting. But if someone does want to start a podcast, you never know where it can go and lead
That's
you
right.
to down the road. We have had this conversation, the three of us. You guys are starting to make partnerships with companies and think, you have your bracelets you were selling and you can
Yeah.
have merch. And there's just different ways to make money and grow it in time. But to know that it's
Yeah.
it's going to
And it
start off as
helps you, I think. And I know we learned that at Podfest too, but like you think you have to do one thing, but you can do all the things, right? You can have subscription, you can have courses, you can have boot camps, you can have, and I think that's so fun. It gets those juices flowing. You're like, wow, I can have a lot my hand in all of these things. And that's so fun to feed our creative souls.
Yeah.
It is. It's really endless. And then the connections you make too. Like that's always one of the number one things I say is that my favorite part is making friends from all over and being
Yeah.
able to say, "Hey, come on my show," or "I want to recommend you to someone because you guys would be great for each other's shows." And just having these connections that you make that down the road you could be doing a summit and you're like, "Oh, I want Shannon to join," or vice versa. And you just feel connected to people that are like you, and that just feeds your soul in a different way.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we talk about on almost every single episode is the fact that human connection is really that human experience is really the key driver for us all feeling fulfilled and really getting the most out of life. And so that's the one thing I do think, all these topics really start to hit on, right? Is us connecting with other people, not feeling alone, right? Feeling like we all have a sense of belonging.
Yeah, because it gets lonely when you're a mom and you're, working and doing all of the things and you don't have that time for yourself. So even if you're
Yeah,
just driving in the car for school pickup or drop off and you listen to Chasing Brighter and you're like, I'm not so alone. There's my friend on the other side. And yeah, there's something so reassuring about that to know that you can
Yeah.
listen
absolutely.
anytime. All right, it's time for our 5 fast cues of the week. Here we go. So the first question is, name one thing that these different chapters in your life have taught you.
Perseverance,
Patience.
Would you recommend taking a leap into a big life change to your best friend?
100%. Bet on
Yes.
yourself.
One life, right? That's all we got.
Yeah.
Yes. YOLO.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is about to start their second act today?
You are already an expert. Approach it like you are the world's best at it.
Yeah, I fake it till you make it. I know that's kind of a cliche, but I think what I mean by that is, you might be feeling unsure about yourself, but just keep with it. Keep focused and you'll get there.
Great advice. So, what does the next act look like for you two? With the podcast, with your businesses, what's next?
We have so much.
Yes.
The dreamer over here, we're talking Kelly and I would like, I don't know if it's going to be 2024, but we would like to publish a book. And another thing we're talking about is putting together like a boot camp course type thing.
Yeah, I mean, we chasing brighter is about chasing the best version of yourself. The idea is that we all want to continue to like improve ourselves. And that's the fun part about the journey, right? Is going through that. And so I think we're super excited. We have season 3 coming up in the fall, and we have a lot of fun ideas, and we want to continue to grow not only our followers, but just like the enriched amount of content and inspiration we can provide others. And we're thinking about in the future having not only a boot camp, but maybe it's like a retreat, doing some local meetups, especially in Vegas and Chicago, where we are continuing to meet with and connect with our followers. So we're excited about a lot of things we have in store.
The whole time you were talking, Kelly, I was like, I'm going to interject here because you have to do some kind of an in person retreat. I
Yes.
just think that would be incredible. Go to a beautiful place and just work on all the different areas that can make you that
Yes.
Yeah.
happier, more fulfilled
Yes.
person. I can
Exactly.
see that, and I will be the
It
first
will at least still
Right.
be us three,
We'll check
Yeah.
right?
your
I mean,
schedule. Yes.
You know what? That would be an event where you go home and you're feeling just refreshed and
Yes.
energized and better about
Yes.
yourself.
yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm. We're going to manifest it. It's going to happen.
Yes, we
Yes.
are.
Yes.
All right. So, how can everyone get in touch with you and connect and listen?
All of our handles are at Chasing Brighter. We have a website and weekly blog, chasingbrighter.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. The podcast is in all the ways you can hear your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Amazon. We
Yep.
have LinkedIn at Chasing Brighter. Am I missing anything, Kel?
Our podcast is available where you listen to podcasts. Check
Mm-hmm.
them out.
Well, Jess and Kelly are everywhere. I'm going to link to everything in the show notes. And girls, this was just so fun. And I just could talk to you all day. I love everything that you're doing and the people that you are. So thank you.
Likewise, Shannon. Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
One more thing, Shannon. We have an opportunity for your listeners to have a chance to win one of our swag bags with
Yeah.
some Chasing Brighter swag. So if
Ooh,
they follow you on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, and DM us their favorite part of this episode, they'll be entered for a chance to win some swag.
that's so generous. I love that. Okay, great. I'm going to post about that and put that in the show notes as well. So lovely, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.